Self-worth determines your net worth. For some, adversity is failure, and for others, it presents an opportunity. Our guest author this morning is a business philosopher and author of Your Business is Not Worth Dying For. Paul Mooney will be delivering a lecture at the Wits Business School tomorrow evening. He joins us to talk about his book and releasing the meta-resilience in your enterprise. Paul, good to have you, and thanks so much for coming through this morning.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, the journey through life is complicated at the least, but yours is also very colorful, very painful at times. If you'll just talk us through that story.
Sure. Well, I was born in Ireland, and I was born in a very traditional working class family, and was given some very working class values, and so my schools and my church and my education system built me for a particular style of living. And what I discovered was that as I was chasing success, which would measure through finance and wealth, that I began to experience changes in my own patterns of behavior, and I discovered that I was climbing a ladder that was on the wrong wall. And so I came to be diagnosed with an issue called reactive clinical depression, and so I was losing my meaning around the work that I was involved in, even though on the outside it was very successful.
Yeah, because by anybody's standards, one could say that you were an overachiever. I mean, having achieved success pretty much in your mid-20s, etc. But the turning point for you had been the depression that manifested in you, obviously losing your family, and also the relationship with Patrick and David, your father and brother. And in the book, you say that you've learned to accept that sometimes you can love people even if they don't allow you into their space. It's very painful, isn't it?
Well, I think for me, I had never really dealt with the pain of abandonment. And so abandonment for me was experienced in many different ways of my life, and because I never dealt with it, I buried it deep inside me, and I put this layer of commercial success above it. So I was trying to achieve and overachieve in order to prove to the people that I loved that I was worthy of their love. And I think what was happening for me is I wasn't allowing the space to love myself. And so I spent a lot of time joining organizations, creating new organizations, working really hard, building the type of model family. And in the end, it just absolutely, I had given so much that I had nothing left to give myself when that pain came along to visit me.
Okay, but your true calling, that of coaching or teaching or being a motivator, be it for business or just in life in general, came when you had to accept that your life is a mystery and not always having to find the answers. It's about asking the right questions, isn't it?
Yeah, the biggest question I felt that I had to ask myself was life worth living. That was the question that I asked myself in July of 2006. And during that particular time in my life, my answer to that question was no, that it wasn't worth living. And so I had a number of near-death experiences on one particular weekend, and I ended up in an accident and emergency hospital in a very serious crash. And as I was diagnosed with this reactive clinical depression, I ended up in a psychiatric hospital for 7 weeks. And in the psychiatric hospital, I met people that I knew, people that I'd worked with, and people who I knew commercially. And I started asking the question, what are you all doing here? And they all told me to be quiet like this, because there was a stigma around addressing the issue of depression in the workplace. And there was one particular psychologist in the hospital who really helped me with a process called cognitive behavioral therapy. So she made me believe that the answers to my problems were inside me and not outside me, and not in drugs. And so I requalified myself pretty much over the following 2 years with a coaching diploma. I did a diploma in suicidology, emotional intelligence. I went back to medical school to understand what was going on in the body. And so my journey changed, and I absolutely came onto a different vibrational frequency. Yeah. And a whole set of people came into my life to make it much richer than it had ever been.
But why is it that life's lessons always have to come at a point where you've reached rock bottom, or you're at that verge where you have to ask those questions, whether life is worth living, or is there life beyond death, and those kind of questions?
Because I think in that shadow space, there's nowhere else left to turn. And so, for example, I burnt out because I was an overgiver. And so most people who burn out just give and give and give, and they never receive. and that means they never have anything for themselves. So in that time when there's nothing left to cope with getting out of bed in the morning, those questions come to you. And it's how you answer those questions determines how you're going to live your day, never mind the rest of your life.
Okay, but your business is not worth dying for. I mean, life is a gift. Is there anything really that's worth dying for? I suppose it depends on your beliefs, whether it's an ideal, a virtue, or principle. Is there anything worth dying for?
There are plenty of things worth dying for. And even if you take the issue of suicide, for example, there are more people who take their own lives in the world. That's 1 million people every year than are killed by war. And a lot of those people are actually sacrificing their lives for what they believe in, interestingly enough. And so when I talk about dying for your business, part of it is a real death, because it's been proven by research by Trinity College in Dublin that 1 in 7 suicides are actually related to work. And if you look at the road traffic accident statistics coming out of the US, 1 in 7 road traffic accidents are disguised suicides. And so if you take those numbers together, people are literally dying around their relationship with work. So the kind of death that I'm calling for is a death of the ego within the business, so that your significance and your business success are so tightly aligned that if your business success doesn't arise, your ego crashes. And that's what I experienced myself.
All right, let's talk about the resilience, and particularly your lecture tomorrow evening.
Well, I've developed a model based on my own experience of life and all the research that I've done around my retraining. And I've developed a model around which I'm doing my own doctorate at the moment. And so there are 4 things that we help individuals and organizations to improve on. So that is personal persistence, personal efficiency, experience of adversity, and openness to change. So we help organizations and individuals to rise the impact of that. And then we help individuals and organizations to diminish the impact of 4 other factors. And that is obstacles to adaptation, instability of their environment, personal vulnerability, and low self-esteem. So we're trying to create a space where people can access their natural strengths of resilience and bring them through for ordinary daily interactions with their business colleagues, with their customers, with their management and staff, and also organizationally as well.
All right, but you're also learning from South Africans while you're here.
Yes, I'm really interested in the experience of South Africa. One of the really interesting projects I'm involved in down here is for the global coaching community. And the global coaching community are in the process of launching between 40 and 60 simultaneous coaching projects in South African communities. So in business, in prison, in hospitals, and in government. And we're hoping to take what is really pure and authentic around the South African lifestyle and bring it back into the coaching world and share it with 15,000 of our coaching colleagues who are part of the global coaching community.
Wow, thanks so much, Paul, for making time this morning. We wish you all the success. Thanks so much. We're speaking to Paul Mooney, who is author of Your Business is Not Worth Dying For. He is at the Bird Vessels Lecture Theatre at Wits Business School tomorrow evening at 5:30. His book will be published soon. Your Business is Not Worth Dying For. I have it in soft copy and an absolute must read. Let's take a quick ad break. We're back at 7:30 with the latest news headlines.